All right, it's 6 o'clock, and that means it is time for us to get started. Of course, I am Fantastic Assad. Geocentric Skeptic is going to be my co host for today. Geo, are you with me?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. So, we do have a fun topic today that I don't think either of us have discussed personally how we feel about it, but we definitely have some fun cases we can talk about, and just some, uh, I don't know, we'll probably have a little bit of a differing opinion on it, but we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we'll have some callers or some chat to kind of give their opinion and see what they have to say on the topic. And I think we should announce that next week when we do our live stream, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and we're going to be interacting with a YouTube video and kind of commenting and kind of not necessarily pointing out errors, but like defending and or making a case against some of the points that this particular video makes. And if our viewers enjoy that format better, we may do more of it in the future. But we also are still going to do call-ins during that session. We're going to have it live on the screen, and we're going to pause and maybe skip around a little bit and just kind of give commentary on it and kind of debate that side, and go from there. But today is going to be intellectual property. So, do you have anything you want to add or anything you want to start out with, Gio?
About intellectual property.
Well, in general, next week or anything you want to say
Oh,
to the
um,
viewers or
oh
anything like
yeah,
that?
oh yeah. I think next week's gonna be a really good episode. Please tune in, call in, or listen after the fact. Doesn't matter. We just want you to hear what we got to say, and we also really want to hear what you got to say as well. So
This is
call in.
true. I think if we can get some more interaction, get our feet off the ground a little bit, I think it would be better overall. Not that I don't enjoy interacting with Geo. I obviously do it on my own quite a bit. But I think if we can get some people calling in or in chat, just kind of giving their opinions, or just, either showing support or saying they hate us, it doesn't matter. Anything is better than nothing, and we can kind of discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. So feel free, if you're watching, say hello in chat. Give us a call. We're going to switch over to the call in screen here in a minute, with all of our debatable points. And if there's something there that you want to talk about or that we're missing and you feel like we should add it, either shout it out in chat or give us a call. In the meantime, let's go ahead and jump into the main contested points page. So I have a few of the contested points backslash uh, debatable topics here,
Should it
and right
exist?
away, yeah, one of the first things, should it exist? And feel free to jump in our Discord server. You can join in, and we'll add you to our live call if you want to join in, or you can give us a phone call. And we do have a live number ready to go. And Gio, if you could just read out that number to him while I pull it up.
Yes, it is 202 888 5350. Again, that is 202 888 5350. Give us
Perfect.
a
And I
call.
just pulled that up so I can make sure that if anyone calls in, it'll actually ring right here, and we'll welcome you on to the show. We'll ask you what name you'd like to go by, or what should we call you, and kind of let you go from there, or if you know, whatever, however that wants to play out. And then, um, if anybody else wants to join in, we can obviously take their calls after the fact. So if you call in and it is busy, just call us after the call gets off. And if you do end up calling in, please do yourself and us a favor and mute your own stream, just because there's a little bit of a sound delay, and it's going to get very echoey on your side. So if you do call in, please mute the stream. But you're welcome to call in that number or jump in our Discord server. So without further ado, let's talk about some intellectual property. So first of all,
Yes.
Gio, do you think that intellectual property should exist. And what I mean by that is, do you think that it is a good thing in general to have things like copyrights, patents, trademarks, trade secrets, etc.?
No.
No. Okay.
Yep. Well, that's
Let's
the end of the
let's
show.
yeah, that's the
All
end of
right,
the show.
guys.
Well, I disagree at least to some extent.
Yeah.
And we can kind of delve into that a little bit as we go along. But why don't we start with why you don't think it's a good thing? Why do you think it's a bad thing?
Well,
Or why
I
don't you
think
think it should exist? Not necessarily it being bad.
let's talk about why we have property in the first place. The only reason there's a need for property is just because of scarcity, right? There are not enough resources for everyone to have as much as they want, right? So that's the reason. So if there was plenty just go around, everybody could consume as much as they wanted. Well, there'd be no need for property, right?
So
Because like
let me pause you
if I
real
were to,
quick,
yeah.
if I can, just step in because I like to. I think this is going to be a fun one. Do you think that it's property or resources that's important?
Well, only resources can be property, like
That's
tangible
not
resources. So,
necessarily true.
but
So I mean,
that's
like
that's
thing
my
like
view of it. That's
things like
so
goods, aluminum, gold.
yeah,
Um, these
that can
are
be property.
I,
The idea of gold cannot be property.
I agree, but the reason these things are useful is because, like for instance, gold is used in a lot of electronics and specifically audio equipment and like high end electronics because it's an amazing electrical conductor, right? But in and of itself, you can't do anything like put a copyright or trademark on gold because it's an element, it's a base element. So you can't do anything with that, but you could hypothetically like patent or copyright something using gold, right? But as far as property, there's not a single individual that owns all the gold. And what makes gold scarce is that there's a limited supply of it. And just because you own land doesn't mean you own gold, obviously. So, as far as resources go, I typically think of in the terms of land when it comes to like ownership of property. Although you can own other things, I think in a more conventional sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if you know where I was going with that. Well, what I was gonna say was that because there's not enough there's not enough resources to go around. That's why you have to lay claim on things and call it your property. Like for instance, if let's say like your car, I forget what it was, a Subaru or something. Let's
Yep.
say if I were to take your car
Mm-hmm.
and you could just snap your fingers and have another one immediately, there'd be no need for it to be property, right? It wouldn't matter if I steal from you because you could just pick up another one immediately. So
Yeah.
the
So
the the reason that's your inability to do that, your inability to do that is why we have to have property. You have to designate, hey, this is mine because it's scarce. Things that aren't scarce, there's no need to define it as property. For instance, like solar energy. Um, you know, there is so much solar energy we get. There is enough for everyone to consume all that they want. So there's no need to delegate it as property.
right. Let's.
It's not a
I,
scarce resource for us.
I'm okay with that definition. Let's kind of. I don't want to get in an argument about what makes property and whatnot, but let's
Yeah.
go there and say let's just kind of step forward and say
Mhm.
what makes intellectual property different.
Cool. So well, the thing is like important part is not what makes property, is why we have it in the first place. With intellectual property, their ideas, their concepts. They're
Not
it,
necessarily. So I mean, obviously, there are like things like patents. that
Hmm.
are for physical things.
Yes, but it's applying to the concept, not the physical thing. See, I can own the physical device, but I can't replicate it and then start selling it because there's a patent on the conceptual idea of the device.
Right, but you could improve upon the idea or concept in some dramatic way, and then make your own patent claim.
Well, maybe I mean it's in some cases, yeah. I mean, like patent law is kind of complicated,
I
but
agree, and I
yeah. So
mean,
I,
as
I
far
want to
as
stay away
my
from the
knowledge on it,
legislative aspect of it. Yeah, stay more
yeah,
just on
I'm
the
fine with
philosophical
that.
side.
Just because I don't think either of us have delved too much into the legislative aspect of patent or copyright law. However, I will go to say that I recently finished Tesla's biography and some of the struggles that he faced with getting his patents and whatnot. And it seems to me that if you take some of these things away, you're essentially taking away genuine property. And what I mean by that is that, especially in the incidents of Tesla, since I use him since I just finished his biography, is that
Hmm.
because he was unable to maintain some of his patents, he quite literally went bankrupt on several occasions.
That wasn't his property. Are you when you describe hit Tesla's property? Are you talking about the money that he hypothetically could have made off his ideas?
I'm talking about the fact that people took his ideas and did make money off of it.
Okay, so what was Tesla's property in a
Well, so
sense?
for
You
instance,
said
he
his
like let's
property
just
was
use the
taken
most
from.
famous invention that everybody knows, the Tesla coil.
Uh-huh.
So it was used in a bunch of electronics. We also have like alternating current and eradication of like specific things within like the electrical system. He basically
Okay.
modernized our entire electrical system and electrical grid in the United States. But
Okay.
he had like tons of patents, probably one of the most patent worthy persons of all time. But because people were either literally taking his idea, skirting the patent laws, and making stuff and putting their name on it, it drove him into bankruptcy because he couldn't use his own devices.
Well, thank patent laws for that. That that seems to me to be an argument against patent laws. Somebody stealing his idea, right? Gaining a patent on it from the government, and then now the government force being used to prevent him from using his own idea that he created himself.
No, no, no.
That
So what
is
was happening is you'd have a. I think I'll use the real company just because it doesn't really matter. But General Electric, which was owned by Thomas Edison, and Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla were pretty much dire enemies their whole lives. They respected one each other, but they really didn't get along. Nonetheless, GE essentially hired someone to steal Tesla's ideas. And at the time, Tesla was working for Westinghouse. And they took his ideas and started mass producing them using things like the assembly line and whatnot to
okay.
essentially mass
Why
produce some of his
wasn't
products.
Tesla allowed to start mass producing him as
He
well?
didn't have the funds.
Okay.
Thomas Edison, who was the owner of General Electric,
Okay. I thought you
funded the
said
whole
they
project.
put a patent on it, and so he
No,
legally wasn't.
they took his patents and then just started slapping their name on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, they took his idea and his concept, his physical devices. They
Mhm.
reverse engineered and or
So
straight up stole it in
so
some
it
cases,
was
and then
Tesla's
started mass
physical.
producing it.
So they took Tesla's physical device.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's immoral. So that was a theft, right? But then the mass production afterwards. To
Yeah, I
me,
mean,
that
it
that that
essentially
is that
drove
is
him into bankruptcy, and this happened on more than one occasion. He was not treated well.
okay. Yeah, I mean, so I mean that's unfortunate that he was driven into the bankruptcy, and that was immoral. What he did by literally stealing his device, but that doesn't that to me that doesn't justify intellectual property.
Well, I
So
mean, like essentially that
it,
I get what you're saying is about what he could have hypothetically made, but I'm saying literally if it was Tesla being paid for the services that of the item he created, he would have made all the money that General Electric made slapping their name on his device.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not.
So
I'm
how do
not.
we protect against people against things like that from happening? Or do you think that tough luck, suck it up, get over it?
I don't know. Well, no. I mean, I think they should be protected, but not using the state. I mean, I have to go
Well,
back
how
a
will
few
we
episodes ago
protect
where
it?
I can't. How are we going to protect it? So through keeping it secret. So just
I
because
mean, like
just because you
that's an
don't have,
issue in and of itself because in the
yeah,
situation of like Tesla, if you keep it a secret, you can't
you can't
produce
use
it.
it.
And then
Yeah,
if it's not produced, you don't make money
that's
off of it. And then your
that's
competitor uses it because they're not trying to keep it a secret and they have money or capital and they can use that and mass produce it and then make more money than you can imagine off
yeah.
of
I mean,
your item, off of your device.
it's not his device.
It was his concept. He
You
came up
said
with it. He was
hey,
the mathematical genius behind it.
but now we're begging the question because intellectual property is what we're just deciding whether we're trying to figure out if that exists, right? You're saying it's
Well, I'm
his.
saying
You're
whether
saying
it
it's
should
his.
exist. I'm not saying
Okay.
whether it does exist. Although we could go like ontologically, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but let's not. Let's not. Um, so so the way I see it is they copy. So a theft is when I take something from you and you no longer have it.
Mm-hmm.
If I copy it, that's not a theft. It's not like you're deprived from it. If you're saying that he was deprived of a opportunity, well, that- the opportunity doesn't belong. I mean, the opportunity it's not something that he has a right to. He doesn't have a right to other people's property, right? Because they haven't said that they're going to purchase this product yet. So but this is all hypothetical. This isn't like money that already belonged to him. These were hypotheticals. These were things. This was profits that could have been made, but failed to materialize because of some underhanded things that Thomas Edison had done. But this is not what Thomas Edison did outside of the initial theft of the original invention. I was the only stealing that happened. Other than that, it was just copies. It's not like he was deprived of this idea. If Tesla didn't have the money, okay, well, you know, go go to go to your bank, show them your idea, try to get some funding behind it. I mean,
Well, I
or
mean, he
try to
did
go
on
get some
multiple
investors.
occasions by people like J.P. Morgan and whatnot, who's obviously,
That
if you know J.P.
that's fine.
Morgan and Chase
And
Bank and all that fun stuff. But
yeah, and if they turn him down, it's not like he has a right to the investors' money either. If they decide they don't want to invest, okay, that's fine. But
agreed. But like,
they're not doing anything
don't
immoral
you think there
to
should be a
Tesla.
line in the sand of where literally one of the smartest people to ever live creates
Mhm.
this concept. He comes up with the idea and then physically makes this device that revolutionizes the way we use electricity.
No,
And
I mean,
he basically modernized electricity and the way we use it, and then was driven into bankruptcy due to some shady deals and lack of capital.
let me explain why. So the only way you can enforce intellectual property is by violating real property rights. Because if I'm protecting a concept, let's say let's talk about a PB and J. You know you can't get a patent on a PB and J, but let's say in this fictional country of now that's debatable topia,
Okay.
right? There you decide you want to put a patent on a PB and J sandwich.
Okay.
Now I have slices of bread. I have physical slices of bread. I have peanut butter. I have jelly. The
Mm-hmm.
only way they can enforce your property rights. I mean, I'm sorry, enforce the protection of your intellectual property is by violating my real property. The government has to come in and tell me I can't use my peanut butter, my slices of bread, and my jelly and put it in a certain way because you have a right to the concept of it.
Now, I'm fine
It-
when you use a peanut butter and jelly. Now, let's take it a step further
mhm.
and let's say, I don't know, I know you pretty well. Do you know right offhand how to build a nuclear warhead from scratch? Could you do it from scratch? If I gave you all the components of it, could you do it?
Well, no, I don't
No.
think anybody alive could.
Okay. Just making sure.
It's
Because I
yeah.
wanted to double check. I didn't know for sure, but I wanted to double check. Let's say that I, Fantastic Facade, knew I did the math, I did the work, and I figured out a way from scratch how
Mhm.
to make a nuclear warhead. Okay? I'm the
Mhm.
only person in the world that knows how to do this. Because I did the math. I put in the work, the time, the effort. I was smart enough to figure out how to put all the pieces together.
Yeah.
Do you have any right to take all the work that I did and start making your own nuclear warheads?
So let's talk about how did I acquire it? Like if you let's say you wrote it on a notebook or something and I stole the notebook. No.
Okay.
Or if I
Let's say I
torture
make
you and
one.
force you to tell me.
I make one. I patent it in this world that we live in. Now that's debatable utopia. Okay.
Mhm.
I patent it, and it has the equivalence of like modern patent laws in the United States. And then I start to produce it, and I produce a limited number of them because I am trying to sell them to make more of them and make a profit off them so I can make more off of them. Okay. And you happen to have enough money to buy one, and you think it's a really good idea and it's a really good way to make money. And you buy one, and then you hire 100 people to take this thing apart and reverse engineer all the work that I did. And then you turn around and start producing your own.
Well, I'm not cutting any scenario because you said it was you said you had gotten a patent on it.
Okay, but
So
that's
the
exactly
government
what
was
happened in real life to Nikola
you
Tesla
said it
on
okay,
multiple
well,
occasions.
yeah, well, that's not exactly what I'm arguing. I mean, that seems just like a poor implementation of the government just failed to enforce their intellectual property laws.
I
I mean, and
agree, and
that's
to,
unfortunate. But like, so but
but you're
I don't
saying
want
there
them at
wouldn't be
all.
anything wrong in and of itself with that scenario. That no one,
No, no,
since
no,
no
no.
one's being harmed, like
So
it doesn't
even
matter.
so, no, you can have harm, but that is it could be harm that's done to you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm violating your rights. And
But as a secular
that's where we need
humanist,
to
don't
draw the
you believe
line.
that?
Not at harm.
Well, don't you believe as a secular humanist that you shouldn't do harm to others, especially when it's driving them into bankruptcy or it takes away any chance of them being, wealthy at all?
Of course, but that doesn't mean that you haven't so here's the thing. You have as a humanist, I'm saying, sure, I ought to be a good person, right? But no one should force me to be a good person. Is what I'm saying. So I think we're kind of getting into the weeds here. But yes, you Thomas Edison should have been more considerate of Tesla, but it's not like he had any sort of
But you
obligation
don't, you
to.
don't think the government should have any say in it?
No, not unless they're violating his rights. And
And you don't think
and the
that a
protect
person's ideas, concepts, mathematical like figurings and all that fun stuff, you don't think that matters?
well
Because it's
no,
just an idea. And
well
you can't steal an idea.
it's not scarce because I didn't
Well, it
steal it.
was. He
So
was the only one in the world that was able to fix this a problem. He was the
no,
only
it's
one in the
not
world that
because
came up with this idea.
because here's the thing because potentially everybody in the world could know how to build a nuke, right? But it doesn't take anything away from your knowledge. It's not like you have this knowledge to how to build a nuke and then I steal it from you and you no longer have it. That's not what's going on.
I'm aware of that. What I'm saying is that in this particular scenario, and in Nikola Tesla's actual case, he
Mhm.
was the only person smart enough to figure some of these inventions out.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that, in the case of a peanut butter and jelly, anyone with a remote knowledge of how sandwiches work and what peanut butter, jelly, and bread is could put that together. That can't be said for things like nuclear armaments and, things like the Tesla coil and 100 other inventions that he came up with. And we could go into things like, and that's where it's at the bottom
I,
as
I, I
far
don't.
as like open access and whatnot. But
I don't think the technical sophistication of the concept ought to be a factor.
so you think
The
that
re-
it really doesn't matter just because it's a concept. So
yeah, well,
anyone
there's the
can take
PB
it
and J
and just be done
sandwich,
with it.
or oh, well, we got to talk about how did I get it?
You bought one
If
of
I
mine and then paid people to reverse engineer it because that's the
oh
only way that you could have done it.
okay,
Because
well,
no one else, no single person in the world at the time was smart enough to do it,
so
except
so
Nikola Tesla.
so if I were to do that, if the government were to come and stop me, and
Mhm.
what the government, in my view, the government is immoral because they're violating my real property rights. Because that property that nuke that I bought from you, it is mine now. I own that. That's what I own, and I have a right to learn. So if I take it apart and I learn how to do it, I can now apply that to other pieces of my property, and no one has any right to stop me from doing that.
Okay.
That's what intellectual property laws have to do.
All right. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that concept, but I mean, I get your point, and I think we should move on just so we get out of the weeds a little bit. But
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
the next thing I have on the list, unless you want to tackle something specifically other than copyrights, patents, trademarks, and trade secrets, because I don't have a ton to say on them, but I did want to mention them because those are the four main types of intellectual property.
Yeah.
So, anything
Well,
specific you wanted to add to any of those,
so
or
I was
anything
gonna
you
say,
saw
I
that you
mean,
wanted to deal with one of those?
sure. I was gonna say mostly when we're talking about intellectual property, we're usually talking about things that patents would apply to, and those are like your inventions and stuff like that.
Yep.
And your copyrights, the argument gets a little harder because now we're talking about like pieces of art,
Yep.
something that the value is much harder to determine, and then the justification of it is a little harder. Like I mean, you know about Martin Shkreli's case, right? It was this life-saving HIV medicine. It cost about $13 per dose, and he raised the cost to $750 per dose. Now I don't know about you, but I personally don't make that much in a day, so that would just kill me. I couldn't afford it.
Right.
So you can act with patents, you can actually see the real harm that's done. Because if there was no such thing as intellectual property law, then someone else could just take the ingredients and then start selling it again for like $13. Nobody would buy Martin Shkreli's version of it anymore. But the intellectual property laws allow him to do that, and he's causing real harm to people. People, some are dying. A lot of them are on various types of government support, and we're paying for it through taxes. So a lot of your tax money is going towards this outrageous priced drug.
So,
But
I don't want to fall into the slippery slope trap, although it definitely seems like I'm going to, and I'm aware of it going into this statement. But bear with me because this is all live and we're just kind of talking it out.
yeah, let's do it.
Let's say hypothetically it's there's no trademark, copyright, blah blah blah. What's to stop people from, or companies like Amazon and Apple, from just making everything? Because they have the capital and the funding,
That
and they
that's the
already
fanciest. I mean, that's a very interesting scenario. Like, let's say I write a book and I try to sell it on Amazon.
Mhm.
Somebody from Amazon buy the book, or Jeff Bezos buy the book and start mass producing it. And
Yeah,
obviously, I can't compete
because
with
I mean,
them.
you
And
couldn't stop Amazon, who has their own massive media library, and they already have the market cornered for
mhm,
basically anyone in rural areas to be able to access anything anywhere. Or you
yeah,
have a $1 trillion company like Apple who could throw money at anything they wanted. So what's to just stop massive corporations like Disney and Apple and Amazon and Comcast from
mhm.
essentially buying anything that could potentially make profit and mass producing it as their own?
So I can ask you this. We're gonna go. It have to go a little bit off topic because here's the
I'm just
thing.
I know it's
So sure, sure,
slightly slippery slope, and I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to get
So
into it too much, but just a fun hypothetical, because I can't be the only one. If there's more than a couple people that watch this, whether it's live or on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever they watch it, I can't be the only one that at least starts down this slippery slope path. And I get that it's a slippery slope path, and I acknowledge it up front. However, I genuinely can't see a situation in where you don't have the top 10 companies, 100 companies just being able to buy anything they wanted and basically make a profit off of it.
sure.
Because they
So
have the idea, they can mass produce it, they can digitally produce it, they already
we
have the
can.
advertising, the campaign space, and the market.
So I were to snap my fingers and immediately eliminate intellectual property law, I'm just gonna keep calling it IP law from now on
Sure,
because I'm getting tongue twisted here. But
that's fine.
so if I were to snap my fingers and immediately eradicate IP law,
Mm-hmm.
they could do it, and they probably would. But here's the thing you have to think of: the elimination of IP law it's a very libertarian, anarcho-capitalistic idea. So once you start mixing in anarcho-capitalism with the government, you get very egregious scenarios like this.
I'm
If you
just
were to
so
if
I'm
you were
just
to put
saying
in the
that
full
it would.
thing, okay, corporations are the result of government. What they do is they protect the owners and investors from liability. If you were to get rid of the government, you wouldn't have investors, nor would you have intellectual property law. So that's the thing.
That's
We're trying to blend
first of all,
things.
let's
That's the
pause.
problem.
I think you either misspoke or you misunderstand something. The government has nothing to do with whether a company will have investors or not.
No, no, no. That's not the point. The point
You
is
said that without
no.
the government, companies would not have investors. That's
No.
just
Oh
not
yeah.
true.
If that's what I said, I misspoke. What I said without the government, there wouldn't be corporations. Eh,
Well, I mean, officially no,
Corporate
because a corporation has a specific definition, which is like dependent upon government. But
protection.
in and
If
of itself,
government,
you could have massive companies. It doesn't have to
yes,
be a quote unquote corporation.
but they wouldn't be protected from liability. So that's a huge difference. Just a massive company
Mm-hmm.
versus a corporation is a huge difference there. And the difference, the huge difference is the protection from liability. You wouldn't have these things in an anarcho-capitalist
Okay,
society. I think we're getting way off topic here. But so the scenario
I
that you're
agree,
describing,
but I
as
think
egregious
it's
it
a waste of
is,
time.
yeah, of it's the result of getting rid of IP law and changing literally nothing else about the system. That's why it wouldn't work. You have
Yeah,
to
but
change the entire
let's
system.
talk about what you said there for just a second, then we'll move on, because I think it is a little bit off topic, but I think it's important, and that is it that companies or corporations currently don't have liability or nearly as much liability. So
Well, the company's liable, but not the people behind it. So like you own I
well,
don't know,
let's
you
use a
own
real
Water
company. It's fine
Incorporated.
because Amazon is
Okay.
a massive company, and they're probably not watching this. And if they are, we haven't done anything to slander them or whatnot. But we know that the owner of Amazon is Jeff Bezos. But because he owns Amazon.com, if Amazon says they're going to deliver something to you within a certain time frame and they do not, they're liable. But Jeff Bezos himself is not specifically liable for that single item. And the reason that is because it's a massive company. Like
No, it's because it's not the size of the company. It's because it's incorporated. It gets much worse than that. I'm not even talking about just a single package. I mean, if Amazon if Amazon burns your house and kill all your children, you can't go after Bezos. You can only go after Amazon. That's the difference.
I mean, you
So
could go after
we're trying to
specific
mix
employees
in.
that were involved. That's what I'm saying.
But
There's really no difference
maybe
there. No, you could.
maybe
There's
maybe
really
the
no
no
reason
no
to
no
stop you.
maybe the employee's actions are written into the company policy. Then you can't go after the employee. You have to go after the company. That's what I'm saying. We're trying to take something, an idea from anarcho capitalism, and throw it in the middle of this government jungle. Then you see it fall apart. Well, that's the problem. If we just get rid of IP law and change literally nothing else, then sure, there would be nothing preventing this egregious example of a company like Amazon stealing someone's idea and then just selling it as their own.
I
You
mean,
have to go
I
after
agree
more
to
than
the
that.
to the extent of that without changing a lot of things, you couldn't just eradicate IP law. That's about the extent I agree with that. However, I think we should move on.
Mhm.
So, any idea why I put personhood and identity there? I know we talked a little bit about it, but I think this is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. So there's a few things to think about here. I mean, if you don't think about this, the like you own your face, like the
I
physical
do.
thing that is your face, it
Yep.
belongs to you,
Yeah.
right? Let's say I take a picture of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's my phone. I own the electrons that are spinning up and down that make up the one and zeros, that make up the data that's on my phone. It is mine.
Mm-hmm.
But anybody could look at this phone and be like, "No, hey, this is definitely Fantastic Facade's face."
Yep.
Like, no, it's not. It's not Fantastic Facade's
No,
face.
it's an image of my
This is my.
face.
This is my image. I own it.
Yeah.
And so I could take it and throw it on my shoes and be like, "Hey, look at this! Some Fantastic Facade sneakers." I can take your reputation and whatever benefits that come from it and throw it on an item that I'm trying to sell and benefit from you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a right to protect not your face because that's already yours, but something that looks like your face?
Yeah, a mass-produced image and or
Yes.
painting or screen printing, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Of a image of my face.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that brings up a really interesting question, and that gets a little bit into personhood and identity, specifically the identity side, but it also gets into the Bette Midler and Kim Kardashian, which I have up on the screen, and they're pretty unique cases in and of themselves. If you haven't looked into either of them, I think we should tackle the Kim Kardashian case first because it's really relevant to what you just said. And in that case, Kim Kardashian actually sued the company Old Navy because one of their models in a commercial looked like Kim Kardashian. And her argument was that by associating this person who looked like Kim Kardashian with Old Navy, it could take money out of Kim Kardashian's pocket because she has her own clothing line or she was endorsing a clothing line with her name. So she basically said, it's my identity that you're infringing upon. Because who I am as a person is this iconic social media light that makes a lot of money by selling clothing with my name on them. And by you taking someone who looks like me, you by proxy are implying that this is something that I would do, or that you're trying to copy my image in order to sell more products of your own line. Do you think there's anything wrong with that?
I think I'm gonna encourage the audience to go look up this case and
Yeah,
look at.
if you just Google Kim Kardashian sues Old Navy, there's articles from tons of news sources. There's NBC and the Wrap and LA Times and
And if you
like
go through Google
her.
Images, you'll see tons of side by sides
Yeah, you can see
where
the
they can
model
compare them.
and Kim Kardashian
And
side by side on the screen and see kind of what they look like, and you can actually watch the ad on YouTube. Um,
yeah, I'm looking at a side by side right now, and seeing them together. I mean, I could definitely see how they look like Kim Kardashian. If I were to just see the commercial, I don't think I would have thought, "Oh, that looks like Kim." I wouldn't have thought that. But seeing them together, I can see why she thought that.
yeah,
My
so I mean,
view,
the question is there anything wrong with that? Did Kim Kardashian have a right to her looks being, I guess, trademarked and or copyrighted? Because Old Navy was basically using this model who kind of looked like her as a ploy to sell more items,
cool. So, and I'm
or at least
again,
that's what
I'm
she
not coming.
claimed.
And again, I'm not coming at this from the point of view of like U.S. copyright law because I know a little about it.
Yeah, well,
Just
I'm
the
just
from
in
the
general, the
libertarian, yeah,
concept. Do you think the
from
concept is okay?
my opinion, I think Kim Kardashian was kind of stretching it here. I
Is it
mean, because
because that person doesn't look a lot like her, or is it because you don't think the person has a right to protect their identity?
well, she has a right to protect her identity. She doesn't have a right to control what others do with their property. And this may be a slippery slope fallacy, but I'm concerned about this. I mean, think about this. Think about if I don't know, what's the result of this lawsuit? Did she win?
They settled outside of court, and it looks like there was approximately $20 million awarded to Kim Kardashian. At least that's the
Gotcha.
last. It wasn't a public figure.
Let me
All
tell
the
you who.
cases are.
Let me tell you
This
who's the
one said
real
it's
victim.
approximately that she won $20 million.
Well, let me tell you who the real victim is. This model who they said looked like Kim Kardashian.
Mhm.
Kardashian, she's the real victim. Because think about this. Let's say you want to have a commercial and she tries out for a part and she's really good. Are you gonna put her in your commercial?
You're probably not, because I don't want to get sued by Kim Kardashian.
Exactly. Right? So she's the real victim. And I'm afraid this happening over and over again. Hey, you look too much like this other famous person, so we're going to deny you this opportunity.
Yeah, but let's take it back to the in a libertarian world of now that's debatable utopia. If Kim Kardashian can't hold this copyright and or trademark, whatever it is, I assume it's a copyright on her image, then she wouldn't have one, right? So anybody could take and slap Kim Kardashian's face on anything that they ever made, right? And then they could sell it and say, like, this is a handbag or a t-shirt or tennis shoes or anything else with Kim Kardashian's face on it. Therefore, it's like Kim Kardashian is endorsing this product because we have her face and image. And
They certainly,
in and of
could do that.
itself, we know that Kim Kardashian, specifically because she filed a lawsuit to stop this exact thing from happening, does not support that.
Yeah.
So, does Kim Kardashian have a right to keep companies from using her face and image on their products? And even so much as her name, which is part of her identity. This is why I put personhood and identity, and the personhood we'll bring up in just a second, but identity specifically.
Yeah. So my answer is going to be no. And
So Kim Kardashian doesn't have the right to stop a company from using a copy of her face on anything they ever make.
yeah, if a company wanted to put out a shirt, they take Kim Kardashian's face, not the lookalike model, but I mean a picture of her face and say Kim Kardashian on it. If a company wanted to do that, and my ANCAP society, yes, they could do that. So and you're probably going to see this as a scapegoat, but the issue is when ANCAP society, we're not trying to create a society where there is zero harm done to anyone ever. All we're trying to do is promote a voluntary society where as
I'm good with
little
that, but
rights are.
Kim Kardashian didn't volunteer her face to be on your product.
Well, yeah, I mean, but she has a right to her face. She doesn't have a right to the image of her face.
Yeah, but I mean, could you then take her and say, you like, this is going to be a horrible example. I'm just going to do it anyway. Could you take her face and Photoshop it over another image and say that this is Kim Kardashian doing this thing?
In the ANCAP society, yes.
Sure. So
You could.
there's really no protection of personhood in an ANCAP society.
There is protection of personhood. I wouldn't call an image of her face on a T-shirt as part of her person.
Right, but her character is, and you could easily slander it. And or say that she promotes basically anything. You could just come out and say in this ANCAP world that Kim Kardashian likes Nazis or likes Hitler, and you could Photoshop an image of Hitler wearing a Kim Kardashian shirt, or vice versa.
I mean that's literally the society that we live in right now. I mean, I haven't tried it, but I guarantee you, if you were to look up some like uh Michelle Obama porn video or something like that, you could find like a person who looks like Michelle Obama on Pornhub, and you could see her performing some sexual act, and it's not really her, right? So that's literally the society we live in right now.
But without saying
that
that it's a look-alike, or without saying that it's a stand-in, or I think they call in some things they call it a deep fake, in which there's people that are imitating others. But if you don't clarify that, then essentially you're saying this person is doing it, and that's where they currently, in the society we live in, have a right to sue you for slandering their character. Because obviously people like Michelle Obama would not be found on websites as such, and they don't support people like Hitler. So saying that they do causes issue.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's slandering their character.
I don't want to get like too deep into this type of like slander law, but I'll tell you this: it's very hard for it'd be very hard for someone like Michelle Obama to file a slander lawsuit as a result of that, because she's what you would call like a public person, right?
Yeah, she's a public figure.
She's a public figure, right? And so it gets very difficult. I mean, she'd have to prove that there's not only harm, but the harm was intentional and malicious. It's really hard.
And I'm not saying that it's not possible or that it wouldn't be difficult, but there's a part of me, and I'm not saying I can rationalize it or justify it, but I feel like there's got to be a part of you, and there's definitely a part of me that says that everything about that is wrong.
Yes, it does. Everything
it screams out like this is not something that should be allowed. You shouldn't be able to take a public figure, no matter your opinion of that person, whether it be the current president, the former president, any other president, any of their wives, etc. Anyone, even people like Kim Kardashian, who I genuinely don't think about at all, with exception of when we started talking about intellectual property. I remembered the case involving her suing Old Navy. But I don't think about Kim Kardashian on a regular basis, right? But I also don't think that anyone should be able to take Kim Kardashian's image, an image of Kim Kardashian, and Photoshop it onto something like a Hitler, and say that Kim Kardashian is Hitler, or Kim Kardashian supports Hitler. Even though I don't really care for Kim Kardashian, I don't really think about her, I still feel like that's wrong. Because it's not I feel expressing like the opinions of that person.
I feel like it's wrong as well. But my view is that laws
you don't feel like there should be any protections of that?
No.
Okay.
But so, it is grossly immoral.
In the ANCAP society, it doesn't matter if things are right or wrong. It just matters as
it does matter, but that's not within the domain of of an ANCAP society. It is. I mean, it's not like
Right.
she.
So essentially, what you're saying is that there's a gap of um, how do I want to word that? Uh, I don't know the word I want to use.
Gap of control.
No, I wouldn't say control. I'll say like a gap of. I'll almost use the word. I almost want to use the word like policing.
Okay, sure.
I don't like, and I know obviously that's not NCAP, but you get what I mean. That
Yeah. So
in an NCAP society,
here's the
it
thing.
is wrong, but there is nothing that is done about it.
You know, a lot of people will feel that it's wrong. So, and there is some policing in the sense that like society can still step in. You know, if I saw someone,
But society doesn't, and they
if,
won't.
if,
because
if, if
people can
someone
make money off of
if
it.
someone I said if someone took your image without your permission and threw it on a T-shirt, and you were telling them to take it off and they wouldn't, I wouldn't buy that T-shirt. I boycott the whole company, and a lot of people would.
Not necessarily. No one cares. Like, I'm not
Well-
famous. Like no one
Well,
cares.
well,
about
yeah.
that.
If they knew about the harm that it was causing you, I think a lot of people would. A lot of people may
Yeah,
not
but
as
like
well.
that's the problem. People can't know how much harm, and I get there's a complete niche in society for things like celebrities and 1% and people that live their life in the spotlight. So whether that be a politician or their spouse, or whether that be a massive internet celebrity or TV celebrity, whatever it is, things like paparazzi, which infringe upon their personal rights, their personal property, and whatnot. And
It can, but
things
not
like-
always.
Well,
If
and
you're
I'm not
in a
saying it
public
always
space,
does.
I
I'm
can
just saying in certain situations, and things like, I'll use a British one, The Sun, which is a magazine that comes out and they basically produce gossip celebrity. It's a gossip celebrity magazine, and they just put anything they want in the paper in the tabloids and say like, oh, this person's getting married or this person's getting divorced again, and blah blah blah. Everyone on earth doesn't care if this person was a regular person, but because this person is of note or they're of celebrity status, it gains way more traction, and it's a way for these people to sell newspapers or gain advertisers on websites and whatnot. So when it comes to like a regular person, it doesn't get nearly the traction that using something like a celebrity or a politician would use. That's where I get there's a difference, and I don't want to cherry pick here, but there's clearly a difference between a company taking a picture of you and putting it on t-shirts, although I wouldn't buy the t-shirt because you didn't get permission for that company to do so. If people thought that you were attractive and just wanted to buy that t-shirt, they're not really going to think of the ramifications it causes you. They're going to buy the shirt because they like it.
That's true.
So really, like, I feel like there has to be something to help keep that from happening.
A lot of times, government doesn't even fix that.
I'm not saying it does, and especially not the one we currently live in or the one that is currently in control.
I'll tell
However,
you this. So,
there should be some ramifications for this issue.
Yesterday, I was in the National Mall. I was me and the family. We were walking through some of the Smithsonian museums, and it was carts, they're parked all around the streets, right? And they're selling a bunch of copyrighted stuff without their permission. I mean, you can go there, you can buy fake Redskins hats or Washington football team hats, fake Wizards hats, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
the government doesn't fix it.
I'm not saying it does, but I think there should be ramifications for that issue.
Yeah, and the ramifications, my opinion, should be held in a court of public opinion, not the government stepping in and restricting property
court of
rights.
public opinion doesn't mean much because it has to be of something of note for the public to care.
True.
When it's an individual, the public doesn't care.
That's kind of one of the protections. You know, like nobody want to take my face and throw it on the shoe because they don't know who I am.
Exactly.
Right. So that's kind of part of That's part of what protects me. It'd be unlikely to happen.
Yeah, I agree, but the problem is like when you have celebrities, and as long as there's a need for celebrities or a desire for celebrities, not saying there's a necessary need, but
Mhm.
as long as people want movies and television and music and like anything creative to exist, then you're going to have these icons, whether they should be or not. We're not going to get into, but
Mhm.
people will recognize them. People will view them as something separate than themselves. Something separates you and Kim Kardashian. What that is not really relevant. But the fact that people aren't trying to put your picture on a t-shirt and people that
Mhm.
are putting Kim Kardashian's face on a shirt means there is something fundamentally different about the two of you,
True.
right? So there should
Yes,
be
her
something
her
in place, at
reputation.
least in my opinion, to help people. And I'm sure it seems almost hypocritical to say that celebrities need protection more than non-celebrities. But in a sense, you're violating some of their personal rights by like hiring paparazzi to follow them around and try to catch them in some scandalous or supposedly
But
scandalous pose and then
I
use
I
that to
wouldn't
make
say
a ton
that's a
of money off of
violation of
them.
their rights.
Yeah,
So
because you think it's just an image of that person, but you're slandering
no
that
no
person's name and taking
it, it,
something
it,
from them by like you know how you said the model in the situation of Kim Kardashian was the real victim?
yeah,
Well, in cases where you're taking and running people's names through the mud, they're the victim.
sure, but
So
even with the model example, I it's not like her rights are being violated. What she's
right, but
missing
what you're
out on,
doing is
what
you're
she's missing
keeping
out on
people. You
opportunities.
asked what you were doing is you're taking money from her pocket because you're essentially ensuring
I'm,
that she never gets another job.
you're not taking money from her pocket because the money wasn't there. It's just the opportunity to get the money.
Yeah, but
That
like
that
it's
money,
kind of like saying
she
that.
doesn't have the money, so
Yeah, but
it's not being
it,
taken from her pocket.
but it's like saying if I could essentially destroy your bachelor's degree and I could eradicate it from the educational system in which you acquired it, or your master's degree because I know you have one. If I could eradicate it from the system in which you gained it, and then people looked you up and said, "Oh, do you have this master's degree?" and they
Mhm.
searched it and they went to the school database and then
Yeah,
they pulled the school and they called the school and everything they found says no. If I was able to do that, would you say it would be harmful to you?
yeah, it'd be
Because it
harmful.
takes
Definitely.
credibility away from your occupation.
It'd be harmful, but like I said earlier, like I don't draw the line at harm. I draw the line at the violation of property rights.
So there wouldn't be anything wrong with me going into the
Oh,
school
oh yeah,
system
yeah,
and destroying.
certainly. Yeah, definitely. It'd
But
be
but it
be
wouldn't
wrong.
there wouldn't be like in and of itself like in an ANCAP society there'd be no ramifications for something like that because all I'm doing is
But
destroying
yeah,
the concept of your master's degree.
yeah. So I mean, there'd be no. I mean, there'd be no government ramifications, but to say the
Yeah,
zero
and then
ramifications.
there would
I
be
mean,
nothing
so
you could
I
do
mean,
about it on a personal
yeah.
level
I mean,
because
we
the
got
public
to
opinion
so
doesn't matter either.
so we got to talk about like how did you I mean get rid of my degree? Like when
I
did you
went into
hack
the
you
school
hacked their
system.
servers?
I hacked into the school system in which you acquired your master's degree.
Okay, well
I
that would
specifically
be a
found
violation of
your
property
name and
rights.
I eradicated it.
Yeah, that'd be a violation of property rights. Not mine,
Why?
but the schools. Right, you hack their systems.
Okay, but only the school has anything that they can do about it, not you specifically.
Yeah, that's what I said. You wouldn't violate my rights. You'd be causing me harm, definitely. What you'd be doing to me is wrong, but you're not violating my property rights.
So
You're violating the
it'd be
schools.
fine for me to do that as long as the school said it was okay.
Sure. If I mean, the school can do that right now. If the school wanted to revoke my degree,
Right.
they
But
have a
if
right
a
to do that.
person did that, an individual did that, you would say that it's much worse than the school doing it.
Well, yeah, it's much worse, but you'd be violating, it'd be violating someone's property rights, right? Maybe not mine, but you'd be violating property rights. That's when we draw the line.
Yeah,
But
but
the
there
line's
would be
not
no
drawn
property
at
rights
harm.
gone by
Like,
me getting permission to erase your like the
well,
master's degree from your school.
if you got permission to do it, well, that changes things,
Yeah,
right?
so I mean,
Because
no harm,
now
no foul.
the school had authority. There is harm, but you didn't violate my rights.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, though, is that you would lose your job, and I would say you'd never get another job in the field that you have because you don't have that degree anymore.
Well, I mean, sure, but you definitely be causing harm. You mean, are you doing is I don't have a right to the materialism. I mean, to materialization of what could come from
Your
opportunities.
education.
Yes, and I still have the education.
Yeah, but it's the degree that verifies that education.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so like if people are, checking a resume and they say, hey, we need proof that you actually attended this school and you have a degree in which you say you have a degree in.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So in order to get a job in the field that you currently have a job in, they might want you to have a degree. And if I eradicated that degree, you could not get a job in that field per se.
Sure. But here's the thing: if the school has a right to do it, you can't make that. You don't. If you go to the school and say, "Hey, I want you to do this," and the school does it.
Yeah, but it's
the school that did it.
I'm only violating the school's rights. I'm not violating yours, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you get
You're
no
not
say
violating
in the
my
matter.
rights. I wouldn't get any say any matter.
Right.
Well, all my
your certification and all your degrees and whatnot, it'd be completely rendered useless to you.
Yes.
You'd lose your job probably, and you probably never get another job in the field. Yeah, but you don't get any say in the matter because person B was mean.
I mean that's the way it is right now. I mean, even this last cybersecurity cert I just got, like the ISACA, I got the CISM. ISACA has the right to. It's right in there. They said they have the right to revoke your certification for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, that's just the way it is.
That's the company that gave you the certification, not a random person. The certification is only there because
if you ask the company to do it, then the company
is worth providing you the certification.
Yes, but if you asked the company to do it, then the company did it. If you went in there and hacked their systems and did it, now you're violating someone's property rights.
Yeah, but I'm only violating the company's rights, not yours. So I could remove these certifications. I could remove your degree. I could essentially render you bankrupt and potentially make you homeless. But I wouldn't have violated any of your rights.
That is true.
And you don't see a problem with that.
I do see a problem. You caused me great harm.
This situation could genuinely happen in such a society.
Think about this. You have a donut shop, right? You're selling these really tasty donuts for $1, mm-hmm. right? And I open up a donut shop across the street from you, and I'm selling donuts that are just as tasty for 50 cents. And let's say you were depending on that business for your livelihood and your family and everything, but I put you out of business. I definitely caused you real harm, but I didn't violate your rights. That would just be competition. Now I have a right to do that.
I feel like that would just lead to monopoly.
That's monopolies be very hard to happen.
Not when you have billion-dollar companies in existence now.
And those are corporations.
Those are still companies, whether they're incorporated or not is irrelevant.
That's getting millions in subsidies from the government.
Irrelevant. You have trillion-dollar companies. If you move $15 million a year, it doesn't matter. It's not a drop in the bucket to a $1 trillion company.
I mean, there's not many $1 trillion companies. I don't know.
There's two currently.
Oh, well, like which ones are those?
Apple and
Amazon. Okay, both of those definitely get piles of subsidies.
I'm not saying they don't, but there are multiple multi-billion-dollar companies as well.
You'd be surprised to look this up. Amazon, the only profitable part of Amazon is AWS. They've lost money on everything else. They've been running in the negatives since they started. Since it was like 99.
Yeah, I'm aware. So, they reported losses across the board for like 9 straight years or something like that,
Yeah,
maybe more.
it is. It's just AWS is the only profitable one. The only. Well, I was reading Milton Friedman's book, and this was like years ago when I was in grad school, and the one true monopoly they had found that came up in a free market without any government protection. It was this diamond company. Forget the name of it,
De
but
Beers.
every that thing that may
They're the
be
largest
one.
diamond company in the world, so it's
Yeah,
probably them.
yeah.
There's another one that
That
exists actually in the optical world. I forget who owns everyone, but there's a big one amongst glasses.
either way, monopolies are very hard to create in a free market.
I'm not saying they're
And back
not,
back
but when
back
you
back
start
back
with
to
a
the donut
multi-billion-dollar
example.
company to back that, it's going to be really hard for small companies to compete.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not
yeah,
saying it's not impossible. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying it's going to be extremely difficult when you have companies that have billions of dollars of capital to compete against you.
yeah. I mean,
So it does have, there is some credence there. That's all I'm saying. But we got really off topic. I think we should kind of move on unless there's something you really want to add.
we did
Something else.
Oh, part about stunt and creativity. I like to tackle that before
Okay.
we end. And there was a point that I had saw another libertarian thinker make, and I lost the window that I had open where the quote was. But the point they were making was that just about all the publications, just about everything that was published, vast majority of everything that was published prior to the 20th century is in free domain. However, there's still millions of people that buy copies of it. Like for instance, like do you have do you happen to have a copy of the Federalist Papers?
I picked one up at the Goodwill just the other day.
Yeah, that's free domain.
Yep.
Here's something. You ever bought a Bible?
Yeah, I purchased a Bible.
That's public domain. I mean,
I'm aware, but
yeah,
and here's the
sort
thing,
of.
I can access
Translations can get
Yeah.
translations can
I
get
can
copyrighted.
access this thing. Oh, hey, look, it's an incoming call.
Oh wow.
Let's answer this real quick.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling. You're on the air with Now That's Debatable. Who are we speaking with? What should we call you?
You can call me Eric. How y'all doing?
Hey, Eric, how's it going?
Well, not too bad. Just sitting here listening to y'all go on and on.
Got a little off topic there. Sorry about that. Have something you want to add or jump into the intellectual property rights?
Real quick, I can't
intellectual
hear Eric
property
at all.
rights. I
He
guess
said
they
something to
don't
me.
exist
I'll be depending on you
to a certain extent. You talked about ANCAP, which kind of triggered me a little bit. In terms, well, what if this happens and what if that happens? I'm just a little, I guess, confused about, just individual agency in these matters. What if such and such shuts down your business? I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean if they shut down my business? How does that happen? You know what I'm saying? And I guess for, discussion, we have to stipulate certain things, but that level of stipulation, I think, is something that, just need to be careful about, or at least, be aware of, almost like a tongue-in-cheek kind of a thing. The idea of ANCAP, leading on, towards anarchy, is that, we have some level of control over our lives, Not only that, with who does what to us, but how we respond,
And I agree. I think there's a lot of personal responsibility that needs to be involved in general, but I don't think an ANCAP society necessarily promotes that.
Okay, I guess we can agree
And
to
so,
disagree there. I think it does.
what was he saying? Like you lose
promote,
control over
personal
yourself? Because I have to
responsibility.
listen to the live stream in order to hear. For some reason, I can't.
My
hear.
question is, I just got here. I mean, I've been trying to get on, I guess, like for the last few weeks and what have
But is
you.
that what he was
that
saying?
name,
Give me 1 second, Gio.
Gotcha,
Okay.
puts it out on Facebook, But is there a schedule? Something I'm trying to? I just downloaded Twitch so I could catch you guys.
Gotcha. Well, we definitely appreciate it, and we appreciate you calling in. We're trying to get to a dedicated schedule, and I think it's going to end up being Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And I can't guarantee that that's going to be the situation, but with that in mind, that's what we're going to try to do in the future, and we're going to take on new topics. Next week, we are doing something a little bit different, but we are still going to have the call-in option. But that's something we want to do, and we do appreciate you listening and calling in. And you're more than welcome to call in on any show that we do.
He dropped it on a Facebook page called Black Libertarian.
You know what else? I mean, since he was our first
with
caller,
the 202 area code.
I really
this is
want
where I live. So
when we start.
Hey, both of you are talking at the same time.
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry. I'm seeing if I can get Gio into this sound so he can hear as well. Gio, can you hear?
I can hear you.
Eric, can you say something to see if we can get Gio to hear you as well?
Testing, 1, 2, 3, and it's not really necessary. I just wanted to jump in real quick. I'm just going to listen for the next 15 minutes or so, and I just wanted to kind of pop in and ask a quick question, get some idea of what you guys are doing and what you guys are about.
Definitely.
And,
well, I really
I'll go
appreciate
ahead and sign. I'll probably end up signing up for Twitch, and things will probably clear up a little better.
Yeah, we were using Discord to kind of chat back and forth, and unfortunately, I'll figure out how to. We'll do it off the air, but we'll figure out how to get Gio so you can hear this call as well, because he's listening live to hear you. But with that in mind, we do appreciate you calling in, and a little bit about what we're about. The whole process that we kind of came up with together is that we would just want to take on debatable topics, and we want to get people's opinion on it. We want to get your opinion and get people's voices heard. So if there's something you agree with or something that you disagree with, you're more than welcome to jump in and chat or give us a call and kind of express your opinion and why you feel the way you do. And Gio and I know each other in real life, and we've known each other a really long time, and it just kind of came about one day that we decided we wanted to do this because we argue with each other a lot in person, and we decided that we wanted to kind of get out of ourselves and get involved with other people and kind of help spread information if we can and get other people's perspectives so we can get our viewpoint and broaden our own horizons. So that's what this whole thing is about.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you, and I think it's a good thing. Get people out of the mainstream mush we're being force fed every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have your own opinion on that, that's your own thing, and we're more than welcome to hear that. And we just kind of want to promote critical thinking. That's the long and the short of it.
Exactly.
Whether you agree with us or not doesn't matter. We just want to promote critical thinking across the board. That's kind of why we have this discussion. We want to have interactive chats and phone calls like with you and other people. That way we can kind of get this all going and get your opinion on the matter and kind of understand why you feel the way you do about these things.
Absolutely. All right. I'm just going to listen for a while.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, Eric. We'll figure this whole thing out. Unfortunately, Gio's having to listen live, but if you feel like calling in on a future topic, you're more than welcome to do so. Or if you have somebody that might be interested in it, feel free to share or give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Peace.
All right. Peace, Eric. Have a good day. All right, Gio, can you still hear me?
I can.
All right. Well, we appreciate Eric for calling in. It was our first call in. We do really appreciate that. Unfortunately, little sound issue there. Couldn't get Gio to hear the call. We'll have to straighten that off the air. But we do really appreciate that. I think we should kind of jump back in topic. We only have a couple minutes left. And we want to wrap a few of these things up real quick. Gio, you want to take off?
What was left? We had the.
So we were talking about stunting creativity.
I was gonna say that I don't think it'll stunt creativity because the majority of the works before the 20th century are in public domain. Yet billions of dollars are made each year in purchasing these public domain um, works of art, like such as literature, music, etc. Now, and that's why I was saying the idea that this is gonna discourage artists from
Yeah,
creating art.
I think the main argument there, and this is just my 2 cents worth before we move on. I completely get what you're saying. Things that essentially are out of copyright or out of patent can be used, and then there's companies like Penguin that publishes these and makes a fortune off of them, even though they're in public domain. So anything Sherlock Holmes is in public domain. I own a complete collection of Sherlock Holmes works, the works of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and I've read them several times. But because they're so old, they're technically public domain. You can use them how you want. But the fact that this company is willing to put them together in a particular order and organize them in a certain way and have a paperback or hardback that I enjoy, that's why I'm spending the money to access these things or acquire these things. It's not the work itself that's protected. It's the work that they put into getting this material into my hands. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's all on that. I think we should tackle alternatives. I think personhood we've tackled a little bit. The only thing I wanted to throw out was if any of the viewers want to look into it, there was a pretty big court case that actually ended in 2018 where a monkey took a selfie and they were trying to determine whether the selfie could belong to the monkey or belong to the person who owned the camera. The long and the short of it is it went to the Superior Court. The Superior Court ruled that animals cannot own images. They upheld the decision that animals could not hold copyrighted material, and therefore the monkey lost. Lawyers from PETA, which is People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, basically were trying to give rights for the monkey to own the image. It was tossed out, unfortunately. But that's why personhood is there, getting into that and identity. So the last thing is, before we wrap this up, is alternatives, and that's something that I think we should tackle briefly, and we may talk more on these topics later on, because things like the blockchain and cryptography has become really, really important with things like cryptocurrency, and is really, really popular currently. So alternatives to patents include cryptography, encryption, and even things like open access. So let's tackle that real quick before we wrap up.
Yeah, sure. There's basically there are technical implementations that there are technical controls that could be implemented to protect these what we call intellectual property. The reason why they do this is because IP law is insufficient to do this. Is insufficient to protect it. Right? You have, I mean, how many of us have ever watched a bootleg movie? Right, probably everyone.
I mean,
right?
I'm sure between bootleg movies and music, especially back in the day when LimeWire existed.
Essentially, it's not hard to get. So that's why they implement these technical controls, and so that's part of what would replace IP law if it were eliminated. That's the way
so
you
just to
and it wouldn't violate property
deeper,
rights.
Yeah, just to delve into it a little deeper. Not to get too technical or to get way off topic or dive. It's not a deep dive by any means, but there are methods in which you can encrypt by using things like cryptography and encryption digital content to basically keep people from stealing it. And how that works is that you put your own key built into the data of that information. So when someone accesses it, they access your specific key. And if you alter that, it alters that key. And now you have a unique key that is separate from the information that you originally published. And that's kind of how things like encryption and cryptography work. There's also endocryptography, if I think that's the word I'm looking for, where you actually hide images within your image, and it's formatted in the metadata, and basically with it being there, it's a good way to determine whether it's the original work or a copy, because if it's just a copy of the image, if it's like a screenshot, then you won't have that metadata available. So these are some alternatives to things like intellectual property rights or intellectual property law, because they're things that people that are being really creative that don't want their stuff to be stolen are doing to help protect themselves. Because in a very real sense, copyright law is insufficient as it is. And although we can debate back and forth whether copyright law should exist or intellectual property law should exist in the first place, doing things like adding additional data to the metadata or encrypting your own digital material is a way for you to help protect yourself, whether you feel, no matter how you feel about intellectual property law.
Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing else to say on it. If you wait for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Last thing is just open access. The big one, there's a really big fish in the pond here, and that's Elon Musk. He's the current CEO of Tesla. He basically makes 99% of his patents open access. And what that means is that you can go and view these. He is very much pro the idea that it will help build creativity. So the opposite of stunting creativity here, the opposite of that being people like Elon Musk publishing this information and making it open access gives people the right to take all the things that he came up with and basically manipulate them and use them in any way they want without any worry of a lawsuit. He did so because he thinks that if you can modify and or improve upon his current works, then you should do so. And I am in accord with at least this concept to the level that Elon Musk has it. And I think no matter where you stand on that, since it's his ideas and he's willing to put them as open access, we should all respect that. And no matter whether you feel that intellectual property law should exist or not, by doing something like this, it gives everybody the opportunity to access it.
Hey man, good for him. Good for him.
All right, so I'm going to end to our thanks for watching page. So this is just at the bottom here. I don't know if anybody's ever paid attention, but at the bottom here, this little purple bar is actually going up as people follow us. We do appreciate our followers. I do want to give a special thank you to Eric for being our first caller. Unfortunately, we did have a little audio issue there where Gio couldn't hear except listening into the live call. But we do appreciate you calling in. If you have any others that want to call in, or if anybody else listening wants to call in, we do appreciate Eric giving us a call. Letting him be our first caller was amazing. It shows that we are moving in the right direction, so we appreciate that. Gio, did you want to add anything as we wrap up?
No, I really wanted to appreciate. I really want to tell Eric that I appreciate him calling in, your first caller, and let's try to get his information when we get a little bigger. I really want to give him, something. When we start our membership thing, like give him like free membership or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if he joins our Discord server, or if you feel like calling in or sending us an email, however you want to contact us, just be sure to do so. And once we get a little bit bigger or whatnot, we can make sure that we just genuinely show our appreciation to our first caller. It's something that means a lot to us because we're just getting our feet off the ground here. And I think as we grow and potentially get bigger, it just means a lot. So we want to just give a huge thank you to Eric, seriously. And if you could just give us a follow if you're watching. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It just shows that you're supporting us, whether you actually watch this or not. Showing us support is great. We appreciate it. And we're just trying to promote that critical thinking, like I was talking about with Eric, and kind of get everyone's opinion. So that's where our little tagline is, let your voice be heard. So,
and same for you, Jeremy. I was going to say same for you, Jeremy, for being our first chat.
Yep, same for you, Jeremy. We do genuinely appreciate this. We're going to read every comment on YouTube and read every email that we get. This is something that we take seriously. Even though we're just getting our feet off the ground, it's something that we both have a genuine passion for. So we appreciate it. We appreciate our supporters. And I think that's going to be it, unless, Gio, you have anything you want to add?
Well, that's it.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you on the next one. I believe it's going to be Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week's going to be a little bit different format. We're going to be watching a YouTube video and reacting accordingly. But we are still going to take live calls if anybody wants to jump in. And between now and then, we're going to fix the issue so that Geo can also hear the call. We do apologize, but it should still be on the stream. And if you missed any of that or would like to catch up on it, there is information available on YouTube. So without further ado, we thank you and have a great day.